The morning started like any other Tuesday on Earth. People went to work, children went to school, and the world kept spinning as it always had. But at exactly 10:47 a.m., everything changed. A massive shadow fell across the sky above New York City. Then London. Then Tokyo. Then every major city on Earth. The ships were huge, dark metal things that looked like they could crush mountains. They hung in the air without making any sound, like silent death waiting to fall. Admiral Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue planet below. His skin was made of what looked like living crystal, and he had 6 arms that moved like deadly snakes. He had conquered 43 different worlds for the Zephyrian Empire. This would be number 44. "Open all communication channels," he ordered his crew. His voice was deep and cold like winter wind. "Through a grave. Let these primitives hear their fate." Every television on Earth suddenly went black. Every radio fell silent. Every phone screen flickered and showed the same image, the terrifying face of Admiral Vexthal. His crystal skin caught the light from his ship's bridge and threw it back. In sharp, angry flashes. "Primitive species of Sol 3, he began, using the Empire's name for Earth. "I am Admiral Vexthal of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. We are your new masters." In the United Nations building in New York, President Jake Morrison was in an emergency meeting when the transmission began. The room full of world leaders fell silent as the aliens' words filled the air. "Your world has resources that the Empire needs," Vexthal continued. "You have 7 of your solar rotations to surrender completely. If you submit now, your deaths will be quick and clean. If you resist, we will make your suffering so terrible that other worlds will hear about it for 1,000 years. The alien." Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. He had given this same speech to dozens of other species. Most begged for mercy. Some tried to negotiate. A few fought back with primitive weapons. All of them died in the end. "You have no space fleet," he said with what might have been amusement. "You have no energy shields. You have no weapons that can reach us. You are nothing more than clever animals who learn to make fire. In 7 days you will kneel before the Empire, or you will burn." The transmission ended, and screens around the world went back to normal. But nothing would ever be normal again. In the UN emergency room. "President." Morrison looked around at the faces of other world leaders. He expected to see panic, fear, maybe even tears. Instead, he saw something that made him want to smile. Secretary of Defense. Lisa Crawford was already pulling up files on her tablet. These were not the files that normal people were allowed to see. These were the files that had been hidden for 50 years, ever since the first alien probe had been caught near Jupiter. "Well," Morrison said slowly, "I guess it's time." Prime Minister Helen Burke from England was writing notes very fast. She was not writing about surrender terms or peace treaties. She was writing about supply chains and production schedules for weapons that did not officially exist. Chancellor Klaus Weber from Germany was talking quietly into his phone in rapid German. The words he was saying would have surprised many people. He was not calling for help. He was giving orders to activate sleeping military programs. "Lisa," Morrison said to his Secretary of Defense, "how long do we need?" Crawford looked up from her tablet. Her eyes were bright with something that was not fear. "We've been ready for 30 years, sir. We just need to make some phone calls." "Good," Morrison said. "Send a message back to our crystal friend up there. Tell him we got his." Message loud and clear. "What should the message say, sir?" Morrison leaned back in his chair. For the first time in hours, he smiled. "Tell him thanks for the warning. Tell him we'll be ready." High above Earth, Admiral Vexthal received the human response. He read it twice, then a third time. He had expected begging. He had expected offers of negotiation. He had expected desperate attempts to buy more time. He had not expected this. "Sir," said his communications officer, "should we respond?" Vexthal's crystal skin darkened with anger. "No, let them have their false courage. In 7 days they will learn what happens to species who mock the Empire." What the Admiral did not know was that while he was reading the human message, Other things were happening all around the solar system. Things that his sensors could not detect. Things that had been hidden for a very long time. Near Mars, Captain Roy Mitchell stood on the bridge of something that looked like a space station. It was called Cerberus, and according to all official records, it did not exist. Neither did the 11 other stations just like it that were scattered around Earth's orbit. Activation codes confirmed, Mitchell said to his crew. All stations are green. We'll go for Operation Lighthouse. The operation had been planned for decades. Every human government knew about it. Every major military leader had trained for it. But no civilian had ever heard of it, and no alien spy had ever detected it. Dr. Amy Foster was deep underground in Nevada, in a laboratory that was not on any map. Around her, dozens of scientists worked on weapons that would have seemed like magic to most people. They had been working on these weapons for 30 years, ever since the first alien technology had been captured and studied. How long until the gravity disruptors are ready? She asked Dr. Paul Rivers, her second-in-command. 6 hours, Rivers replied. The dimensional phase cannons are already online. The shield-piercing missiles are loaded and ready. Good, and the fleet? Captain Peterson reports all ships are ready. They're just waiting for the go signal. Foster nodded. The fleet was humanity's greatest secret. 200 ships that had been built in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. Ships that used technology that was part human genius and part alien science. Ships that could do things that the Zephyrian Empire had never seen before. Meanwhile, in a small office in Washington, D.C., Commander Sue Adams was doing something that Admiral Vexler would have found impossible. She was reading his private communications. The alien's transmission had carried more than just his threatening words. It had carried the complete technical specifications of his ship's communication system. Within hours of receiving the message, Adams and her team had cracked the alien codes and gained access to their entire fleet network. They're not just underestimating us, she told General Ben Cooper over a secure line. They're completely blind to what we actually are. How many ships do they have? Cooper asked. 300 in the main fleet. Another 100 scattered around the outer system. They think they're dealing with a pre-space flight civilization. Any chance they know about the Mars colonies? Adams laughed. Sir, they think our Mars colonies are just research stations. They have no idea that we have 1 million people living there, or that half of them are military. What about the asteroid belt? They think those are mining operations. They don't know that each mining station is actually a weapons platform with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Cooper was quiet for a moment. Sue, in your professional opinion, do they have any idea what they're walking into? No, sir, none at all. Around the world, similar conversations were happening. In Russia, General Boris Petrov was activating weapon systems that had been hidden under the ice for decades. In China, Admiral Wei Lin was preparing a fleet of submarines that could travel through space as easily as through water. In Israel, Dr. Sarah Goldman was putting the final touches on a weapon that could crack a planet in half. But the most important conversation was happening in a quiet room beneath the Pentagon, where the real decision-makers were gathering. Gentlemen, ladies, said Morrison as he entered the room, the day we've been preparing for has finally arrived. The room was full of people that most Americans had never heard of. These were the people who had been planning for this moment since the 1970s, when the first alien probe had been detected. What's our status? Morrison asked. All defense grids are online, reported Admiral James Kelly. All fleet units are in position. All weapon systems are ready. The enemy? They're exactly where we expected them to be, doing exactly what we expected them to do, said General Cooper. They've positioned their fleet in a standard siege formation around Earth. They're planning to wait 7 days, and then move in for easy conquest. They have no idea what's coming, added Lisa Crawford. Morrison looked around the room at the faces of the people who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. Then let's give them something to remember. As the first day of the alien ultimatum ended, People around the world went to bed not knowing that their planet was surrounded by enemy warships. They did not know that their governments had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. They did not know that hidden throughout the solar system were weapons and ships that could change the course of galactic history, but they were about to find out. Admiral Vextel settled into his command chair, confident that in 6 more days, Earth would be just another conquered world in the Empire's long list of victories. He had no idea that he was about to become part of a very different kind of history. The second day of the alien ultimatum began with what looked like normal morning news. Television reporters talked about the strange ships in the sky, but they did not know the real story. They did not know that while they slept, the largest military operation in human history had begun. In the hidden command center beneath the Pentagon, President Morrison stood before a wall of screens showing the entire solar system. Each screen showed something that the public was not supposed to know existed. "Report," Morrison said to General Cooper. "All Phase 1 operations are complete, sir. Every defense platform is online and ready. Every fleet unit is in position. The enemy still has no idea what we're capable of." Morrison nodded. "And our people?" "The evacuation of major cities is proceeding under cover of emergency drills. Most civilians think it's just practice. The real evacuation sites are ready to receive them if needed." On the screens, Morrison could see the truth that the aliens could not. Earth was not defenseless. It was not primitive. It was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy, high above Earth's surface. Captain Roy Mitchell walked through the corridors of the Cerberus Defense Station. The station was huge, bigger than most cities, but it was completely invisible to alien sensors. It had been built using technology that was 50 years ahead of anything the public knew about. "Status report," Mitchell said to his weapons officer, Lieutenant Karen White. "All gravity cannons are charged and ready, sir. The antimatter torpedoes are loaded. The shield generators are at full power. What about the other stations?" "All 11 sister stations report ready. We have complete coverage of Earth's orbital space." Mitchell looked out through the station's main window at the alien ships floating in the distance. They looked huge and threatening, but he knew something they did not. Each one of those ships was already in the crosshairs of weapons that could destroy them in seconds. "Sir," White said, "the aliens are scanning us again." "Let them scan," Mitchell replied. "All they'll see is empty space." The stealth technology that hid the defense stations was based on principles that human scientists had learned from studying alien technology for decades. The irony was not lost on Mitchell. The aliens were being defeated by their own science, improved by human creativity. Meanwhile, in the underground laboratories of Nevada, Dr. Amy Foster was putting the finishing touches on weapons that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "The dimensional phase cannons are ready," she told her team. "These weapons can shoot through shields, through armor, through anything the aliens have." Dr. Paul Rivers looked up from his workstation. "The gravity disruptors are also ready. When we activate them, the alien ships will find themselves pulled in directions they didn't know existed. And the nanite swarms, ready and waiting. Each swarm contains 1 billion microscopic robots that can take apart an alien ship from the inside out." Foster smiled. The weapons she and her team had created were not just more powerful than anything the aliens had. They were more creative, more unexpected, more human. "Dr. Foster," said a young scientist named Tom Bradley, "I've been thinking about the alien communication we intercepted. They mentioned conquering 43 species. What if we could contact some of the survivors?" Foster's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant, Tom. If there are resistance groups out there, they might be willing to help us. I've already started working on it. Using the alien communication networks, I think I can reach out to some of the conquered worlds. Do it. The more allies we have, the better our chances." Far from Earth and the asteroid belt, what looked like mining operations were actually some of the most dangerous weapon platforms ever built. Captain Danny Price commanded one of these hidden fortresses built inside a large asteroid called Ceres. "All mining crews report ready," said his first officer. Lieutenant Commander Julie Mason, she was not talking about miners. She was talking about soldiers who had been trained to fight in space. What's our firepower status? We have enough missiles to destroy every alien ship in the system twice over. The plasma cannons are charged. The railguns are loaded. Price looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet. They think we're just digging for rocks? They have no idea that we've turned this entire asteroid belt into a death trap. Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Fleet Command. Price read the message and smiled. All stations, this is Command. Operation Mousetrap is a go. Repeat. Operation Mousetrap is a go. Throughout the asteroid belt, hidden weapon platforms came online. Each one was disguised as a simple mining station, but each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The aliens had no idea that they were surrounded by enemies. On Mars, things were even more interesting. The red planet that the aliens thought was just a research outpost was actually home to over 1 million people and the largest military base in the solar system. General Linda Hayes stood in the command center of Fort Olympus, a massive underground city built into the side of Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. The base was so large that it had its own weather system. Ma'am, said Colonel Rick Thompson, all Mars Defense Forces are ready. We have 200,000 troops ready for deployment, and our fleet is prepared to launch on your order. What? About the civilian population? They're all in secure bunkers. Most of them think it's just another emergency drill. They don't know that we're actually preparing for war. Hayes looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet. They think Mars is just a science station with a few hundred researchers. They have no idea that we've built a second Earth here. Ma'am, we're receiving a message from Earth Command. Hayes read the message and felt her heart rate increase. All units, this is Mars Command. Prepare for Operation Red Storm. We are go. For full deployment. Throughout the Mars colonies, hidden hangars opened and warships began to emerge. These ships were not the primitive rockets that the aliens expected. They were sleek, fast, and deadly, built with technology that combined human engineering with alien science, but the most important preparations were happening in places that the aliens could not even imagine. In orbit around Jupiter. Hidden in the gas giant's massive radiation belt, Captain Sam Peterson stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance. The ship was the flagship of humanity's secret space fleet, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Status report, Peterson said to his executive officer, Commander Lisa Barnes. All systems are green, sir. The quantum drives are ready. The phase shields are online. The plasma cannons are charged. What about the rest of the fleet? All 200 ships report ready for combat. We have complete tactical surprise. Peterson looked out at the swirling clouds of Jupiter. Hidden in that storm were 200 warships that represented 50 years of human preparation. Ships that could travel faster than light, fight in multiple dimensions, and carry weapons that could crack moons. Sir, Barnes said, we're receiving the go signal from Earth Command. Peterson felt a surge of excitement. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Operation Thunderstorm is active. Prepare for hyperspace jump on my mark. But the real secret was not the ships or the weapons or the hidden bases. The real secret was the people in command centers around the world, men and women who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment were finally getting their chance. They were not just soldiers or scientists or politicians. They were the children and grandchildren of the people who had first detected alien life in the 1970s. Commander Sue Adams sat in her intelligence center watching alien communications scroll across her screens. She had been listening to alien chatter for hours, and what she heard made her smile. They're arguing among themselves, she told General Cooper over a secure line. Some of them want to attack immediately. Others want to wait the full 7 days. They're not unified. What about their fleet positions? They're in standard siege formation, just like we expected. They're positioned for intimidation, not for actual combat. If we hit them now, we could destroy half their fleet before they even know what's happening. Any sign that they suspect anything? Adams laughed. Sir, they're so confident that they're not even running deep scans. They think they're dealing with a primitive species that just learned to make fire. They have no idea that we've been watching them for 50 years. Around the world, similar conversations were happening. In every major military installation, in every government building, in every command center, people were preparing for the moment when humanity would announce itself to the galaxy. But perhaps the most important preparation was happening in a small, unremarkable office in Washington, D.C., where a group of linguists and computer experts were working on something that would change everything. Dr. Mary Wilson looked up from her computer screen. I've got it. I've cracked their entire communication network. What do you mean? Asked her colleague, Dr. Steve Davis. I mean, I can read every message they send. I can listen to every conversation. I can even access their tactical computers. They're completely open to us, Davis whistled. That's incredible. What are they saying? Wilson smiled. They're talking about how easy this conquest is going to be. They're already planning how to divide up Earth's resources. One of them is even complaining that the conquest is going to be too boring. Have you found anything about their weekend? The seventh day had arrived. Admiral Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth turn slowly below him. His crystal skin glowed with satisfaction. The humans had not responded to his ultimatum. They had not tried to evacuate. They had not even attempted to negotiate. Prepare for final transmission, he ordered his crew. It is time for these primitives to learn their fate. What the Admiral did not know was that in the hidden command center beneath the Pentagon, President Morrison was watching him. Human technology had been monitoring every alien ship for days. Every conversation, every tactical plan, every weakness had been recorded and analyzed. Are we ready? Morrison asked General Cooper, all units report ready, sir. Every defense platform is online. Every fleet is in position. Every weapon system is charged and waiting. And the civilians? Safe in the bunkers. Most of them still think it's just an emergency drill. Morrison nodded. Then let's introduce ourselves properly. On his flagship, Admiral Vexthal activated the communication system that would broadcast his message to every human on Earth. He expected to see panic in the streets, desperate attempts to hide, maybe even some begging for mercy. Instead, his screen showed something that confused him. The humans were not panicking. They were going about their daily business as if nothing was happening. Some were even looking up at his ships and waving. Sir, said his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Put it through, Vexthal ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Admiral Vexthal was looking at a human male sitting behind a simple desk. The human looked relaxed, even cheerful. Behind him was a flag that Vexthal did not recognize. Admiral Vexthal, the human said with a smile, I'm President Jake Morrison of the United Earth Government. I believe you had something to say to us? The Admiral's crystal skin darkened with anger. You dare to mock me? Your time is up, primitive. Surrender now, or face the consequences. Morrison's smile grew wider. Well, Admiral, we've thought about your offer very carefully. We've discussed it with our military advisors, our scientists, and our allies, and we've come to a decision. What decision? We decline? Vexthal S6 arms moved in agitation. You decline? You have no choice in this matter. You will surrender, or you will die. Actually, Morrison said, leaning back in his chair, we'd like to make a counteroffer. You have 1 hour to leave our solar system peacefully. This is your only warning. The alien admiral stared at the screen in disbelief. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever spoken to him like this. You threaten me? You have no weapons that can reach us. You have no fleet. You have no defenses. Are you sure about that? Morrison asked. Something in the human's tone made Vexthal pause. Of course I'm sure. We've scanned your entire system. You have nothing but primitive chemical rockets and basic energy weapons. Morrison's smile became predatory. Admiral, here's something you should know about humans. We don't just fight to survive, we fight to win. And we've been preparing for you a lot longer than you think. Impossible. We detected no advanced technology. That's because we didn't want you to detect it. Morrison pressed a button on his desk. Computer, begin operation revelation. Admiral Vexthal's sensors suddenly exploded with activity. Massive energy signatures were appearing throughout the solar system. Weapons platforms were decloaking. Around every planet, what had looked like empty space was suddenly full of ships. What is this? Vexthal demanded. This, Morrison said, is what happens when you threaten a species that's been preparing for war for 50 years. The first things to appear were the orbital defense platforms. 12 massive stations materialized around Earth, each one the size of a small city. Their weapons were already trained on the alien fleet. Impossible, Vexthal whispered. Our sensors showed nothing. Your sensors showed exactly what we wanted them to show, Morrison replied. Admiral, meet Captain Roy Mitchell, commander of the Cerberus defense platform. The screen split, and suddenly Vexthal was looking at a human male in military uniform, standing on what was clearly a warship bridge. Admiral, Mitchell said politely, I've got 12 gravity cannons aimed at your flagship. Each one can punch a hole through your ship from stem to stern. Would you like a demonstration? Before Vexthal could respond, more ships began appearing. From behind the moon, a fleet of sleek warships emerged. They moved with a grace that alien ships had never shown, dancing through space like predators. Those are Captain Danny Price's asteroid defense forces, Morrison explained. They've been hiding in the asteroid belt, disguised as mining operations. How many ships do you have there, Danny? A new voice joined the conversation. 57 heavy cruisers, Mr. President, each one carrying enough firepower to crack a moon. Vexthal's crystal skin was now pale with shock. This is impossible. You're a primitive species. Morrison corrected. We were primitive. That was 50 years ago? We've learned a lot since then. More ships appeared. From Mars, a massive fleet launched into space. These were not the crude rockets that the aliens expected. They were advanced warships that seemed to bend space around them as they moved. General Linda Hayes commanding Mars Defense Forces, a female voice reported. 200 ships ready for combat, sir. And from the outer system? Morrison asked. Jupiter fleet reports ready, said another voice. Captain Sam Peterson commanding. We have the main battle fleet standing by. Vexthal watched in growing horror as more and more ships appeared. They came from everywhere. From behind planets, from inside asteroid fields, from what had looked like empty space. In minutes, his fleet of 300 ships was outnumbered 2-1. Where did they all come from? He demanded. We built them, Morrison said simply. We've been building them for 50 years. Ever since we captured your first probe near Jupiter. You captured one of our probes? 1973, Morrison said. A beautiful piece of technology. We learned a lot from it. How your engines work, how your shields function, how your weapons operate. We've been studying your technology for decades. Dr. Amy Foster appeared on the screen next. I'm Dr. Foster, head of the Xenotechnology Research Division. We've been reverse engineering your technology and improving it. Would you like to see what we've come up with? Before Vexthal could answer, one of the human ships fired a single shot. The beam passed right through the shields of an alien cruiser and cut it in half. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. Phase cannons, Dr. Foster explained. They fire through dimensional space. Your shields can't stop them because they're not really there when they pass through. Impossible, Vexthal said again, but his voice was shaking now. Here's another one, Foster continued. A different human ship fired, and this time the alien vessel simply came apart, its hull dissolving like sugar in water. Nanite swarms. Microscopic robots that take apart your ships at the molecular level. Vexthal looked around at his fleet. His ships were surrounded, outgunned, and facing weapons they had never seen before. How long have you been preparing for this? 50 years, Morrison repeated. Ever since we realized we weren't alone in the universe. Every government on Earth has been working together. Every military, every scientist, every engineer, all preparing for the day when someone like you would show up. But why? Why prepare for war? Morrison's expression grew serious. Because we've been listening to your communications for decades. We know about the 43 species you've conquered. We know about the worlds you've destroyed. We know about the billions of people you've killed. They were inferior species. No, Morrison said firmly. They were people, living, thinking, feeling people. And you murdered them because they couldn't fight back. Commander Sue Adams appeared on the screen. We've been in contact with some of the survivors from the worlds you conquered. They told us what you did to them. The torture, the experiments, the slavery. That is the way of the Empire, Vexthal said, but his voice lacked conviction. Not anymore, Morrison said. Admiral, your Empire is about to learn something that you've never had to face before. You're about to face a species that fights back. You cannot defeat the Empire. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. Had, Morrison corrected. You had thousands of ships. Sue, show him the outer system. Commander Adams smiled. Admiral, while you've been talking to us, our deep space fleet has been visiting. Your reinforcements? Captain Peterson, would you like to report? A new voice came over the communication system. Peterson here. We've engaged the alien reinforcement fleet at the edge of the solar system. Enemy losses, 67 ships destroyed. 33 disabled. Human losses, 0. Vexthal's crystal skin went completely white. 67 ships? That's impossible. We hit them with weapons they've never seen before, Peterson continued. Gravity bombs that create miniature black holes. Quantum torpedoes? That exist in multiple dimensions at once. Time distortion fields that slow down their reactions while speeding up ours. Admiral, Morrison said, you've spent centuries conquering primitive species. You've never faced an enemy that could fight back with technology equal to yours. Now you're facing an enemy with technology that's better than yours. This cannot be happening. It is happening, Morrison said. And it's going to keep happening. Admiral, we're not just defending Earth, we're declaring. Admiral Vexthal made his choice. Instead of retreating, he decided to show these humans what the Empire was truly capable of. His crystal skin darkened to deep purple, a sign of rage among his species. You think you can threaten the Empire? He snarled. You think your primitive weapons can stand against 1,000 years of conquest? I will show you what happens to species who defy us, President Morrison sighed. Admiral, you're making a mistake. The only mistake was giving you primitives a chance to surrender. All ships, attack formation, destroy everything. The alien fleet moved into battle formation. 300 warships spread out across space, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Each ship was the size of a city block, armed with weapons that had destroyed entire planets. Well, Morrison said to his advisors, he chose the hard way. Sir, General Cooper said, all units report ready for combat. Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. All units, you are free to engage. The battle began in a way that Admiral Vexthal had never seen before. Instead of the humans charging forward in desperate attacks, they simply vanished. Where did they go? Vexthal demanded. His sensor officer, a creature with multiple eyes, stared at his instruments in confusion. Sir, they were there a moment ago. Now our sensors show nothing. Impossible. Ships cannot simply disappear, but they had. The human fleet had activated their phase technology, stepping out of normal space into a dimension that alien sensors could not detect. They were still there, but they existed in a space between spaces, invisible and untouchable. The first sign of what was coming happened when the alien flagship's shields suddenly failed. Not from weapon fire, but from something that the Empire had never encountered before. Shield generators are offline, reported the alien weapons officer. Something is interfering with our power systems. What kind of interference? Unknown. Sir, it's like something is eating our energy from the inside. Dr. Amy Foster's nanite swarms had found their target. Microscopic robots, smaller than atoms, had passed through the alien shields and were now taking apart the ship's power systems one molecule at a time. Sir, the sensor officer called out, I'm detecting massive energy buildup throughout the System, from where? Everywhere, sir. It's like space itself is charging up. What the aliens were detecting was the activation of humanity's real weapons. Hidden throughout the solar system were devices that could manipulate the basic forces of physics, gravity generators that could create black holes, time distortion fields that could slow down enemy reactions, dimensional phase cannons that could fire through multiple realities at once. The first alien ship to die was a heavy cruiser on the edge of the formation. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone as if it had never existed. Report, Vexthal ordered. The cruiser Deathbringer has vanished, sir. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. It just ceased to exist. That's impossible, but it was happening. Captain Sam Peterson's flagship, the Hughes Defiance, had fired a quantum torpedo that erased the alien ship from reality itself. The weapon didn't destroy matter. It convinced the universe that the matter had never existed in the first place. Sir, Peterson reported over the communication system, first kill confirmed, quantum deletion successful. Excellent work, Captain, Morrison replied. Continue the demonstration. The alien fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons were useless. Energy beams that should have destroyed human ships passed harmlessly through empty space. The human vessels were phasing in and out of reality, appearing just long enough to fire, then vanishing again. Captain Roy Mitchell's orbital defense platforms revealed their true power. The gravity cannons fired not energy beams but distortions. In space itself, the alien ships caught in the gravity fields were crushed like tin cans, their hulls collapsing under forces that should not have been possible. Sir, Mitchell reported, 6 enemy vessels destroyed. Gravity cannon efficiency is at 100%. Admiral Vexthal watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons that should not exist. How are they doing this? Admiral, came a new voice over the communication system. This is Captain Rita Hayes of the Mars Defense Force. You asked how we're doing this. The answer is simple. We learned from you. On the screen, Vexthal saw a human female in military uniform standing on the bridge of a ship that moved like a living thing through space. 50 years ago, you sent a probe to our system, Hayes continued. We captured it, studied it, learned from it. But we didn't just copy your technology, we improved it. Her ship fired a weapon that Vexthal had never seen before. Instead of a beam or a projectile, it fired what looked like a piece of space itself. The alien cruiser it hit didn't explode. It folded in half, as if reality had been twisted around it. Space-time manipulation, Hayes explained. We learned to bend reality itself. Your weapons fire through space. Ours fire through the dimensions. That space is made of. More human ships appeared, each one using weapons that defied everything the Empire knew about physics. Ships that fired miniature black holes. Ships that shot beams of pure time, aging their targets to dust in seconds. Ships that launched projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Sir, the alien communications officer reported, we're being hailed by multiple human vessels. Put them through. Suddenly, Vexthal's screen was filled with human faces, captains, commanders, and admirals from throughout the solar system. All of them looked calm, professional, and utterly confident. Admiral, said Captain Danny Price from the asteroid belt, you're surrounded. Your fleet is cut off from reinforcement. Your weapons are useless against our defenses. This is your last chance to surrender. I will never surrender to primitives. We're not primitives, said General Linda Hayes from Mars. We're the species that took your technology and made it better. We're the species that looked at your empire and decided it needed to end. You cannot defeat the Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Had, corrected Commander Sue Adams. You had ruled the galaxy. Admiral, while you've been fighting us, our deep space fleets have been liberating the worlds you conquered. A new tactical display appeared on Vexthal's screen. It showed the entire Zephyrian Empire, but now it was marked with red symbols indicating human fleet positions. Impossible, Vexthal whispered. Admiral, Adams continued, we've been planning this for decades. Every world you conquered, every species you enslaved, every person you oppressed, we contacted them, we armed them, we trained them, and now they're fighting back. The rebellion on Kepler 442b has succeeded, reported Captain Peterson. The Zephyrian garrison has surrendered. The local population is free. Tau Ceti liberation is complete, added another voice. The slave camps have been destroyed. The prisoners are free. Volf 359 system is secure, came a third report. The Zephyrian fleet has been defeated. The colonies are independent. Vexthol listened to report after report of worlds breaking free from Empire control. His 1,000-year-old empire was crumbling in a matter of hours. How? He asked. How did you coordinate all of this? We've been preparing for 50 years, Morrison explained. Every human government, every military, every scientist, all working together for this moment. But why? Why do you care about other species? Morrison's expression grew serious. Because that's what humans do. We protect people who can't protect themselves. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves. We stand up to bullies no matter how big they are. You're just one species. One species that refuses to kneel, Morrison replied. One species that looked at your empire and said, no more. One species that decided the galaxy needed better neighbors. The battle was almost over. Of the 300 ships in the alien fleet, only a few dozen remained. They were clustered around the flagship, their weapons useless against human technology. Admiral, Captain Mitchell reported, we have your flagship in our sights. Our weapons are locked on. One word from the President, and you're space dust. Vexthol looked around at the remnants of his fleet. His ships were damaged, his weapons were useless, and his empire was falling apart. For the first time in his life, he felt truly defeated. What do you want? He asked. Simple, Morrison said. We want you to go home. We want you to tell your empire that the age of conquest is over. We want you to tell them that humanity is watching, and we will not tolerate oppression. And if the empire refuses, then the empire will learn what happens when you threaten innocent people, Morrison replied. Admiral, you came here thinking you were dealing with primitives. You were wrong. You're dealing with a species that has made it our mission to protect the weak from the strong. You cannot police the entire galaxy. Watch us, Morrison said with a smile. Admiral, you have a choice. You can go home and tell your empire to change its ways, or you can stay here and become the first alien admiral to be defeated by humanity. What will it be? Vexthol looked at his tactical display. His fleet was destroyed, his empire was in rebellion, and he was surrounded by enemies with weapons he couldn't understand. He had no choice. I will withdraw, he said finally. Good choice, Morrison said. Captain Mitchell, escort the Admiral and his surviving ships to the edge of the solar system. Make sure they understand their 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy was a very different place. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled for over 1,000 years, was crumbling. World after world declared independence, backed by human fleets and human weapons. President Morrison stood in the same office where he had first spoken to Admiral Vexthol, but now the view outside his window had changed. Earth's orbit was filled with ships from dozens of different species, all flying under the banner of the new Galactic Liberation Alliance. Status report? Morrison said to General Cooper. Sir, the liberation of the Andorian system is complete. That's the 41st world to gain independence this month. The Zephyrian garrison surrendered without a fight. Casualties? 0, sir. The sight of human ships was enough to convince them to give up, Morrison nodded. It had been like that everywhere. The story of Earth's victory had spread throughout the galaxy faster than any human ship could travel. The empire that had seemed invincible had been defeated by a single species that refused to kneel. What about the empire's response? They're in full retreat, sir. Emperor Zelmoth has recalled all fleets to the home system. Our intelligence suggests they're building new defenses. Let them build, Morrison said. We're not interested in conquest. We're interested in liberation. Captain Sam Peterson entered the office. His ship, the UES Defiance, had become famous throughout the galaxy as the flagship that had led the liberation fleets. Peterson himself was known as the human who had defeated 3 Imperial fleets without losing a single ship. "Mr. President," Peterson said, "we've received a communication from the Vegan Republic. They're requesting membership in the Alliance." "The Vegans? I thought they were Empire allies." "They were, sir. But after seeing what we did to the Zephyrian fleets, they've decided they'd rather be our friends than our enemies." Morrison smiled. "Smart choice. What about the other Empire allies?" "Most of them are reconsidering their positions. The Altarian Confederacy has already switched sides. The Sierran Trade Union is requesting a meeting with our diplomatic corps." "Good. The more species that join us voluntarily, the fewer we'll have to liberate by force." Dr. Amy Foster appeared on the communication screen from her new laboratory. "On Luna, Mr. President, I have an update on the technology sharing program." "Go ahead, Doctor." "We've successfully transferred our medical technology to 15 different species. The Andromedan healing chambers are now capable of treating human injuries, and our nanomedical systems can heal Andromedan cellular damage." "Excellent. What about the defensive technologies?" "We've provided shield generators to 23 worlds. Energy-based weapons are now completely obsolete in Alliance space. Any species that tries to use them will find their weapons useless." Morrison looked out at the diverse fleet surrounding Earth, ships from dozens of worlds, all working together to keep the galaxy free. It was something that had never existed before in galactic history. "Sir," General Cooper said, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Outer Rim." "It's from Admiral Vexthal?" Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Put him through." The familiar crystal-skinned face appeared on the screen, but now Vexthal looked different. His skin was pale, his multiple arms moved nervously, and his eyes held something that had never been there before: fear. "President Morrison," Vexthal said, "I request an audience." "Admiral, I'm surprised to hear from you. I thought you were busy rebuilding your fleet." "The Empire is reconsidering its position. We wish to discuss terms." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "Terms? I thought the Empire didn't negotiate with primitives." "We were wrong," Vexthal admitted. "We underestimated your species." "We underestimated your capabilities." "We underestimated your resolve." "Yes, you did. What does the Empire want?" "A treaty. A cessation of hostilities. A return to the old boundaries." Morrison shook his head. "Admiral, you don't understand. There are no old boundaries anymore. Every world you conquered is now free. Every species you enslaved is now independent. Every person you oppressed is now under our protection." "You cannot protect the entire galaxy." "We don't have to," Morrison said. "We just have to protect it from you, and that's exactly what we're going to do." "What are your terms?" Morrison stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Alliance fleet. "Complete withdrawal from all conquered territories. Full independence for all enslaved species. Reparations for all worlds damaged by Imperial forces. And most importantly, a guarantee that the Empire will never again attempt to conquer innocent species. Those terms are impossible. Then we'll continue liberating worlds until the Empire no longer exists." Vexthal was quiet for a long moment. "What happens to us?" "To the Zephyrian people?" "Nothing," Morrison said, turning back to the screen. "We're not interested in destroying your species. We're interested in stopping your empire. Your people can live in peace on your home worlds. You can trade with other species. You can explore the galaxy. You just can't conquer it. And if we refuse, then you'll learn what happens when you threaten the innocent while humanity is watching." Commander Sue Adams entered the office. "Mr. President, we've received word from the Tau Ceti system. The local population has voted to join the Alliance." That's wonderful news. How many members do we have now?" 67 full members, sir. Another 34 associate members. And we receive new applications every day." Vexthal looked shocked. 67 species? That's impossible. The Empire controlled most of the galaxy. "Controlled?" Morrison corrected. Past tense, Admiral, your empire was built on fear. Our alliance is built on hope. Fear is temporary, but hope is eternal. But how do you coordinate so many different species? How do you make decisions? How do you prevent conflicts? The same way we've always done things, Morrison said. We talk to each other. We listen to each other. We work together to solve problems. It's called cooperation, Admiral. You should try it sometime, Captain Peterson spoke up. Admiral, I was at the liberation of Kepler 442b. I saw what your forces did to the civilian population. I saw the slave camps, the torture chambers, the execution grounds. That's not going to happen anymore. The Empire brought order to the galaxy. The Empire brought suffering to the galaxy, Peterson replied. Real order comes from justice, not from fear. Dr. Foster appeared on the screen again. Mr. President, I have another update. We've successfully established medical centers on all liberated worlds. Childhood mortality rates have dropped by 90%. Life expectancy has increased by an average of 40 years. That's what real civilization looks like, Morrison told Vexthal. Not weapons and conquest, but healing. And growth. You're changing everything, Vexthal said. Yes, we are. We're changing the galaxy from a place where the strong prey on the weak to a place where everyone can live in peace and prosperity. The other empires will not allow this. The Rigelian hegemony, the Polaris Syndicate, the Centauri Dominion. They will unite against you, Morrison smiled. Let them try. Admiral, you came to Earth thinking you were dealing with one primitive species. You were wrong. You were dealing with a species that had spent 50 years preparing for war. But that's not all we prepared for. What do you mean? We prepared for peace. We prepared for the day when conquest would end and cooperation would begin. We prepared for the day when the galaxy would be free. General Cooper pulled up a galactic map. Admiral, take a look at this. Every red dot represents a human fleet. Every blue dot represents a liberated world. Every green dot represents an alliance member. The map was covered in red, blue, and green dots. The Empire's territory had shrunk to a small cluster of systems around the Zephyrian homeworld. This is impossible, Vexthal whispered. This is what happens when you threaten a species that refuses to give up, Morrison said. This is what happens when you attack people who fight for each other instead of just for themselves. But you're just humans. You're just one species. We were just one species, Morrison corrected. Now, we're the founders of an alliance that spans the galaxy. We're the species that looked at your empire and decided it needed to end. We're the people who decided that the galaxy deserved better neighbors. Captain Rita Hayes appeared on the communication screen from the Mars Defense Force. Mr. President, we've received a distress call from the Vega system. The Rigelian hegemony is attacking the civilian population. Response time? 12 hours. Sir, the Third Fleet is already en route. Morrison looked at Vexthal. You see, Admiral, this is what we do. When innocent people are in danger, we help them. When bullies threaten the weak, we stop them. When empires try to conquer, we liberate. You cannot fight every empire in the galaxy. We don't have to fight them, Morrison said. We just have to show them what happens when they threaten innocent people. Most of them will choose to change their ways rather than face what you faced. And if they don't, then they'll learn the same lesson you learned, that the age of conquest is over, that humanity is watching, and that we will not tolerate oppression. Vexthal was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Tired, defeated, but also somehow relieved. What do you want from me? Go home, Admiral. Tell your Emperor that the war is over. Tell him that the Empire can choose to live in peace with the rest of the galaxy, or it can choose to continue fighting a war it cannot W.